John, here we go. Let's go. All right.
Let's do that as a big question.
Okay, meeting comes to order. All in favor?
Yeah, we're here.
Great. Here we go. All right.
Don't,
It's my meeting.
sorry. I have been notifying chairs of these minutes, so I need to take roll call. So.
Wasn't it on the minutes?
Yes, but I should do the minutes we don't do roll call. And the public forum, I don't see them.
Fine. Let's do roll call then. Who's here?
Marks.
Mohammed Goni. Myself.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. All right, we ready? Okay, Heather, would you like to give us the treasure report? First, I'd like to thank you so much.
So all the usual suspects in terms of looking at some of our bigger revenue lines. You can see that, for building and plumbing permits, we're only at about 20% of. Obviously, January, February, March, not generally the busiest building season, so we'll, be reporting on it every month and we'll keep an eye on how it's going. On off-street parking and other permits and parking tickets in general, we're at 42% of budget and 49% of versus year ago, so that's tracking very nicely. And since we didn't have some of the new meters in until part of the way in the year, we should continue to hopefully see a trend, but then we'll see what happens in December, whether the parking is,
And this is for end of May.
This is through the end of May. Yep, so 41% of the year, basically 42% of the year, we're at 42% of budget, so we're trending pretty nicely on that one. Sales, cannabis, mortgage and lodging tax. These are the ones that we get intermittently. So we got sales tax, our first quarterly payment of $432,000, which is pretty decent for the first quarter of the year. That has historically always been the lowest quarter. And you can see that we did net out at 2.54 million in 2025 when we budgeted 2.5 million in 2026. So unless something truly strange happens, I don't anticipate not making that number. Lodging tax, we came in higher than budget in 2025 of 688. We budgeted 575, but I just want to caution people that 688, Michelle Tulo and Peyton Messina have been working very hard for the last year in terms of trying to get people in compliance and following up with the registry. And we've got a new, the company that we use to register STR operators and for them to remit their payments and to get their certificate of authority is now also providing compliance information. So Peyton's going through that on a regular basis. We've been they send out something, and if that doesn't work, then they send out something with my name on it. If that doesn't work, then we send something out with the code enforcement officer. And if that doesn't work, we send something out with the attorney. Haven't got to the attorney stage yet. So I think they've been quite successful in getting people re-registered and getting their back taxes. So certainly some of that 688 is sort of a one-time catch up. So again, the lodging tax, January, February, March, it's probably the lowest quarter as well. So, again, as we continue to go forward, we'll see how that pans out.
Separate question on lodging tax, separate issue. There's an issue with the county.
Yep, that's further down.
Okay, go ahead.
But I can address it now if you want.
Okay, we're talking about lodging tax. Up to you.
Okay, so basically, if you go to the third page, under other operational, 1, 2, 3, 4, 3 bullets down. So basically, as we all know, Columbia County signed a deal with Airbnb for Airbnb to collect and remit back to them their lodging tax. Apparently nowhere in that discussion or agreement was it made clear that the county did not have the authority to charge its tax within the city of Hudson. So they started charging all the STR operators within the city limits the 5% tax and collecting it. As soon as we were notified upon that, I reached out to the county, both the treasurer and the county business manager or controller, I guess. We discussed it, agreed it was an issue. They put us in touch with their contact at Airbnb. We went back and forth for quite some time. They finally were like, okay, can you give us a file or something? The county provided them what's called a shape file that they're supposed to review, which will allow them to extract the short-term rentals within the city of Hudson from what they're doing as of literally 2 weeks ago. And this was a month ago, 6 weeks ago, maybe more, maybe 6 to 8 weeks ago. As of last week, it still had not been corrected. So I reached out back to the people from Airbnb and got a sort of, oh, gosh, we're still working on it. And, but we're gonna come up with a new agreement with the county. So basically the plan is that they're going to redo their agreement with the county to make sure that we're excluded. PJ Keeler, who is the county treasurer, reached out to me a couple of days ago, just a quick email saying, hey, give me a call. I'll catch you up on what's happening. And I haven't had a chance to talk to him before this meeting. So I don't know what that status update is. My big question is going to be, I mean, obviously, the first thing is to stop them incorrectly, illegally adding that tax. My second question is, if they've been doing it and people have been paying it, what happens now? How does that money get returned to the STR operators, and how do the STR operators return it to the people that paid it? And I mean, you know.
Well, there's a notice from local gov that said, local gov sent all the STR operators.
Yeah.
A notice saying that we're working with them, but, yeah, I don't know how it would, it's like, for instance, it's like the federal tariffs, I mean, how do you go back?
Right.
And we pay all those people, I have no idea how that's gonna happen.
And then the question is, who gets, if the money is not returnable to the people,
Who keeps them?
who gets to keep it? I mean, I would argue if it's taxes on city property, even if they're illegal taxes, it should come to the city. County shouldn't get to keep it because they don't have the authority to. But we'll see what happens. I also have no concept whatsoever what amount of dollars we're talking about, because I don't have access to that data.
So it would be the extra 5%.
So I know, but for how many units were rented for how many days during a period of time after they started it, before they ended it. I mean, that's a lot of deep dive.
Wouldn't it just be double what we're getting right now?
Should be,
Because it'd be all the same rentals.
yeah, that's a good point.
Because
No,
it's-
it'd be 80% because I believe there's only 4% in our slide, so it'd be 80%.
Fair.
So anyway, that's been fun. So let's go back to, any more questions on the lodging tax front in any way, shape or form?
Thank you very much.
Okay. And that's why we had lodging, not lodging, there's local gov, that's why we had them send out that as well, because, and obviously we made them aware of it right away, so they could field calls from the different STR operators, but they've been a great partner, local gov, so. Where were we? Okay, adult use cannabis, 40,000, that was slightly higher than our first quarter last year. So if all the quarters come in roughly evenly, it looks like we're right on target to meet our 2026 budget number. I know it's not as high as we had all hoped when the law first went into effect, but it's at least some new revenue. And then mortgage tax, we only get 2 payments a year. We won't get the next one until probably about August. So the first payment this year was 103,000, which is pretty good. It's almost half of our budget number. And I believe the first quarter 2025 was only 71,000. So it's an up from that, but it's completely variable depending on who's selling what house, where, and why. I mean, so it's not particularly projectable. I know we talked about this before the last formal meeting, but I'm just going to leave this on here probably until we're dealing with the 2027 budget, just as a reminder to everybody, unless of course it has to be modified after we get our independent auditors review. But we after a $1.3 million loss in 2024, we're down about 160,000 in 2025. So that all obviously has an impact on our unrestricted fund balance, which is currently at 1.4 million. And using the GFOA minimum estimate or minimum recommendation, it should be more like 2.56. So, we need to be looking at, increasing that, or at least stop decreasing it. Sale of 98 Paddock Place, this is April 26th, that obviously didn't happen. I actually was talking to Andy today about this, so he's going to start on that. It will probably be a 30 to 45 day window to get, offers in. And then hopefully that will be off of our collective plate and back paying property taxes and paying all the back years of property taxes that are owed on that property. This is just sort of back office stuff, but I like to put some things on because they're things that you never see, but they take up sometimes an inordinate amount of time for my office, and this is one of them. New York State local retirement system. Everybody participates in that, almost everybody anyway. They keep, they're trying to modernize. But the problem is when they modernize, that means that we don't have to modernize. And we have been working on this thing called the gold standard. It's different levels of reporting, and they're making the reporting more and more and more complicated. And you have to report on more things that you never had to report on before. And it's highly complicated. And as you can imagine, they've got what they need and they keep expanding their requirements. And then we've got to work somehow between their system and our payroll system and get everything to talk together. And it's been bad. Largely because our implementation of our payroll system was just not handled well. The good news is, for the first time, basically last week, we finally think that the giant hurdles are over and that we are on our way to actually becoming gold certified, which means that the New York retirement system will stop calling me and hounding me about getting certified, which I will be happy about. Danielle in particular has been working extremely hard on this, and it's been a bear, but I think we're going to get there we're definitely going to get there before the end of the year. Talk about lodging tax. So another thing we're doing is, we upgraded basically all of our general ledger and our tax collection and water and sewer collection software in 2025. Which was a huge jump. They have a online payment system that is more integrated with the software system. We have been meeting with them on and off, but obviously the focus had to be getting the actual software to work first. But we just had a follow-up meeting with them, and the nice thing about it, from our end, obviously the nice thing about it is hopefully the integration will mean less manual labor in terms of identifying online payments through the way we collect them. But the other thing is that we will be able to actually accept the water and sewer payments online for the first time.
This year?
This should be this year.
Oh, it's great.
That's
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
Will we be able to pay them once or?
No, we tried, we
I know you
tried.
tried that one.
Yeah, we tried, and for reasons I don't entirely understand, they can't do it. I think part of the problem is, most of us, when we think about our water sewer bill, it's like that same thing you get 4 times a year, it's $150. So they just send a bill for 6, but we wanted to do it the same way we do the tax bill. Here, you have 4 payments, right? January, April, July, September. Pay them then, don't pay a penalty, pay them all at once, you don't have to think about it. They can't do it. I think some of it has to do with the fact that a big underpinning of the utility software is also has to accommodate meter sales.
Oh, that's what it was. That was what it was.
Yeah, so unfortunately, it's still on the list. So next time they want to talk to us, it's gonna be like, hey, could you just do this for the unmetered people, because they're the only ones that really want it.
So 3 of the next 4 bullets are, I'm working on with them. The procurement policy, the changing VDA thresholds on the last one. We're working through issues with all 3 of those. Credit card, that on my list. So what's that?
Well, as we all know, no one is allowed to have a in city operations, dating back to some fraud issues that we had back in the day. There are certain things that would be significantly easier or cost savings to do. An example, and we're not talking about like having everybody having credit cards and putting all this stuff on it. It would be very limited. And the main driver for my office is that literally if we can buy envelopes with postage, pre-postage envelopes via a credit card, it will literally cost us half as much money. So, and right now we can't. So the idea is to potentially, this would have to be a resolution because there was a resolution that disallows it. And I can work on that. That's fine.
Do you know when that resolution was?
Oh. Before mine.
2002, 2006, something like that.
Yeah, it's.
If I remember the date of the event, it was around that time.
Okay. But I mean, I can pull something together and when it's long, I just don't want to waste my time if I don't, you know, open this to the council to consider it or.
But yeah, I think, certainly for treasurer's office, I think it could be something that could be used by certain officers in the city.
Yes,
Right.
and the idea would be, I haven't thought it entirely through, but the idea would be that it would probably be under the control of the treasurer's office and there'd have to be like somebody from the treasurer's office and whoever wants to use it would have to somehow sign off on it, so there's a check and a balance.
So it's goes on. We do similar stuff with our plans on HTC. We have a similar process where two people have to look at everything approved. And there is a debit card.
There was.
Oh, well, there was, but there was something where the treasurer, looked through everything every month and all the charges and everything.
Yeah.
So it was not difficult.
Yeah, and obviously HCPA is a much smaller entity, so we don't want to get into the position where everybody wants to use a credit card all the time. And then all of a sudden we have to go through like 30 pages a month of credit card charges.
So we just have one.
There would have to be
Yeah.
a ration, like a financial rationale to use. So that would be my recommendation. So what I will do for next month is I will pull together a recommendation with the proposed process for us all to discuss and modify and edit, if you guys are open to that.
Sure.
Okay.
What other departments might you invite into the pool?
I mean, I would think as long as there's enough constraints in place,
Mhm.
I would think any department head, basically, and leave it at that.
Right.
But
Obviously for your own department, it would require a second party,
right, so that could be like the clerk's office or the mayor's office, you know,
probably in his office
Yeah.
there, since you're referring to.
Yeah,
Makes
that's-
sense.
good point.
But
Okay.
even police don't have,
They shouldn't,
no,
they're not supposed to.
gotcha.
People do have like store cards, like where you can, and we have Amazon accounts now too, where it's like a business Amazon account, and it can be, because the other thing is. Yeah, so.
Yeah. Let's go. We talked about health, council member healthcare.
Yeah, I think it's on here, just listening.
There is two issues with the healthcare one.
Sure.
But the other three are, possible.
Big process. Okay, fine. So, yeah, we'll discuss that. All right,
So the resolutions listed are.
Did we skip over page 2?
Correct.
All of page 2?
We skipped over to page 2.
Oh, sorry, the four bulleted items,
Uh-huh.
the one we just discussed the credit card, the other three, I'm working on with,
But that's page 3, right?
I'm on page 3.
Yeah, we,
But we skipped page.
page 3.
We
That was page
second page.
So the question is, do you want to go over page 2?
Yeah.
Sorry,
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So do you want to go back to page 2?
Whatever the finance committee likes.
Yes, let's go.
Okay.
Page two.
Okay,
There's a lot of numbers there that are pretty good.
Yes, and we have 10 minutes.
okay. I will go as fast as I
Yeah.
can, which is pretty fast. Okay, the audit's currently underway. We just started, the portal was open. The field work, which isn't field work anymore because they don't come anymore, but it's a targeted time. It's scheduled for the week of July 13th. But since we have both a regular audit and a federal audit and a DOT audit, we're gonna be slammed and, you know, we're just gonna be slammed. 2026 borrowings, you know, we had to borrow, not only for ongoing, cash flow coverage for the DRI and the Ferry Street Bridge, but also the pumper truck, which is the new pumper truck, which is scheduled to be delivered, I believe, sometime in July. We did a series of analyses to determine whether we should roll everything into short-term financing and then roll it in the following year to long-term financing, but finally made the decision that for the pumper truck, which is gonna go straight into a long-term bond, so it's a 20-year bond. It sold at 3.55% interest. That was the best deal we got, which is not so bad. So that's gonna be about $60,000 a year in debt service in the general fund to cover the new pumper truck for the next 20 years. We also had to borrow about a little over $2.3 million in bond anticipation notes, again, to provide cash flow for the DRI and the Ferry Street Bridge, which is ironic because both those projects are done and the Ferry Street Bridge has been ordered for a year. Very frustrating. And that's largely because of the delay in getting reimbursements of the grant monies. So one good thing at least that we talked about timing is literally the sale was on June 2nd. I believe on May 31st, we got a $3 million reimbursement in the bank. So we were about to borrow another $3 million more than this that we didn't have to borrow, and it was literally within 24 hours that we got it. So that was great. Because of the fact that this ban borrowing has to do with, you know, basically waiting for grant reimbursements. We did go ahead and make it callable, which means that we can call it back and pay off the principal and the interest earlier than the 1 year, should we have the money in hand. And we can also do that in increments. So basically, pretty much anytime we get enough of a reimbursement built up, we'll call some of it back, and that's gonna save us a little bit on the interest. So we're doing what we can to try and keep it down. And as we've said before, you know, this should be the last year. So 2020, taking this out in 26 and having to pay it off in 27 should be the last hurrah for these two projects. And that debt service should go down, you know, accordingly for 2028, because there's nothing, you'll have the new debt service for the pumper truck, and we may have some new debt service if we have to borrow for either the Promenade Park, not Promenade Park, Oakdale Park or the Charles Williams Park projects. It's unclear to me where the cash flow is coming through either of those projects, and I have been having conversations with people about it, so we're trying to figure that out. The reason why 2026 borrowing is before 2025 borrowing, it could be the other way around, but we have to borrow in 26 to have enough money to pay off the thing that you borrowed in 25, which was $7.9 million that we just paid off in bond anticipation notes. In that included over $320,000 just in interest, and that's money that's directly out of the city coffers. So if you look at just the Ferry Street Bridge and the DRI, these are supposed to be, you know, full grants that weren't going to cost us any money. We come $2.1 million out of pocket so far, of which $1 million is interest, which is directly out of the city's coffers again. Hopefully the majority of that principal will be redeemed through grant reimbursements, but probably not all of it. And if you include the upcoming 27 projection, that gets us up to almost 2.4 million. So, yeah, I think it's important when you look at grants to realize that, you know, the bigger it is, the more it costs us, even if it's not supposed to cost us anything. Because we don't have, you know, for smaller things, we can do an interfund loan, and so we'll loan $500,000 to a project, and then we don't have to pay ourselves interest, so it really doesn't cost us anything. But for things like this.
And also the length of time it takes to complete the project, depending on when we get reimbursement, that's would be
Correct.
It was the DRI first.
Correct. And DRI was not helped by COVID either, so that probably 2 years of project time. You know, and then the other thing, which we're not addressing here, but the other thing to think about also when you're getting grants is, okay, project's done. How much is it going to cost to maintain this thing that we just spent millions of dollars on? And is it a new expense or not? Right. So like for something like the Ferry Street Bridge, we were maintaining it anyway, so there shouldn't be any, you know, any new additional cost, but to put a whole brand new park that didn't exist before and new furniture and new equipment,
Right.
that's going to be a new cost.
Right. We have like 2 minutes.
Okay, last thing is just foreclosures, the title searches are going more slowly than we had anticipated, but we're still on target, nobody else has come off the list. That's it.
So go ahead, Mark.
I was just to circle back on those, the grants and the costs. Were most of those costs like anticipated, like this is the time frame we're gonna end up paying these interests, or is this just because of unforeseen wrong, the project didn't complete on time? They didn't reimburse us for 1 year.
Yeah. It's 90% bad.
90% that didn't reimburse them.
90% that the project got delayed, which means, we had borrowed the money and then all of a sudden things blew up and then the work couldn't get done.
Hmm.
So that was part of the issue, particularly in the DRI. And then,
Very Street and all kinds of.
Yeah, But how much of the delay was like states not kicking in time? Or is it all mostly kind of a follow on because of our delays?
it really depends. Like, I'll give you an example. One of the first big reimbursements from the DRI, it took us 23 months to get it reimbursed, $1 million.
Even after it was complete.
When, after it was submitted, yeah, or during the period of time it was submitted. But at the same time, you look at Ferry Street Bridge. Frankly, part of the problem with the Ferry Street Bridge is that the people responsible for doing the grant submissions did not do them on a timely basis.
Is there any way for us with these grants to like factor in or pad in the interest that we're gonna have to pay? No, there's no way. All right, we're not just.
So, I'm going to explain to make, for something I'm gonna mention.
1 minute.
Definitely.
All right.
Sorry.
Okay, so anything else then?
Oh, that's what I was gonna say. Yes, I have 1 minute.
1 minute.
So, I sent you all a document yesterday with the schedule. This is basically, I just cleaned up a version that we had looked at before. Looking at our situation, it is imperative that we do not have fee schedules that do not get updated for 20 years. So we can go through this at our next meeting.
Well, let's do it.
Let's not do it at the next meeting or I'm gonna do a special meeting. And there's a section in it that we have reviewed with Craig that I want to review with Nick relating to plumbing and so forth. So I will do that, and then we can just review it. Okay? And if in the meantime, if you have any questions, just send an email, ask a question.
Okay, we have to adjourn because we're 5:45.
Okay, motion to adjourn. Yes, yes.
Sure.